I want 100 more people. He was worth 100 of you. I want 100, not just one. But let me tell you, in parts of the world where blood vengeance is operative, it sounds violent, but it's a very effective deterrent to violence. Nobody does violence often, except maybe the modern terrorist situation. I can't comment on that. But in normal times, people were very loath to do violence because they didn't depend on police force to deal with it afterwards. It was settled personally. And everyone knew retribution was coming. And the social group or tribe didn't like that happening. And they were not happy if someone within their group did something like that. So actually, some of these places in the old days where this is operative, southern Italy, for instance, other places like that, maybe Latin America to some extent, it wasn't just the Arabs that took blood vengeance or the Hebrews, it was the Greeks and others. You could walk around these kinds of cities any time of the day or night, no one would lay a finger on you. It was totally non-violent in their daily life because they knew that any violence would be operative. Now, if you were a foreigner, it didn't operate for you. You didn't have any what? Protection. I'll tell you more about this after break. Give me 5 more minutes, I'll let you go. In the classical Islamic or pre-Arab time, pre-Islamic time, even the Bedouin culture today, 3 days was what an outsider was given before he was open to physical violence or something like that. You had to, law of hospitality operated for 3 days. And for instance, I lived in the Middle East a lot, and I would go into cafes and different places, and I knew I was totally safe because the minute I sat down and broke bread or drank coffee with that person, he was obliged to protect me. I knew he was obliged to protect me. He knew he was obliged to protect me. There was an unwritten law. Of course, if he didn't want me to have coffee with him and he didn't give me anything, he wasn't obliged to do anything. So often they would shun you or something like that, but if the person sat down with you and drank or broke bread with you or whatever, you were under his protection. And no harm would come to you without that person's honor being somehow besmirched. Now, nowadays with beheadings and stuff, that may not be so operative, but that's the way it used to be, and classically it always was. But within the other issue, the people who really lived there, not the foreigners, it was the tribe. So blood called for blood, so the blood ties were all important. So therefore genealogies were kept. Why are the genealogies so important in the Old Testament and to the Arab, Bedouin, and so on? Because it was the tribal relationships and your relationship to the tribe that guaranteed your existence and your protection. So the blood relationships were all important to these people and have been up to the present time almost. I think it's very operative across large parts of the Middle East even today. The blood tie is extremely important. So that comes out of the Bedouin prehistoric past because some people have compared the desert to an ocean and the camel on the desert to a ship where there are no ties to bind you, no settled places, no villages, no maybe wells, but that's about it. So what operates? Well, one Arab historian said what was operating here was asabiya. I want to remember that word. It's an iron in the beginning. Asabiya. What the best translation in English of that word is group solidarity. The Arab historian who wrote about these things and interpreted all Islamic history that he knew was Ibn Khaldun. Look, yeah, put it there so you know it's Ibn Khaldun instead of Ibn Khaldun. Khaldun. No, Khaldun. And the accent tells you where to put the stress and how long the vowel. What did Ibn Khaldun said? Everything has to do with solidarity, group solidarity. And asabiya, you're feeling for family, kinsmen, tribesmen, and the strength of that feeling. Again, I want to hurry up and just quickly do the modern parallel. Do we have asabiya in America today? To some extent. I try to illustrate to my classes over the period that I've been here in Southern California and elsewhere, what's the loyalty of a modern American normally? Well, he doesn't have many loyalties, but some he has. Usually it's centered in most places around this country in the high school. And you get all kinds of pictures of the football games at night, and they have, what was the latest movie made about that? About some coach. What was it called?
Friday Night.
Friday Night Lights or something like that. Yeah, like that, the whole town is basically riveted on that. Well, that's a kind of asabiya, group solidarity. And most people are riveted on their high schools or something. Colleges try to get feeling for the college going. Cal State doesn't have a good record in that. But what schools do have a good record in that? Oh, places like Stanford, USC, Harvard, Yale, Princeton. Why? Because if they can get the asabiya going, the feeling of kinship with your fellow classmates in that particular world, and that goes to your life, your business contacts develop, and they can also get the contributions from you later. It's mainly giving to the university. People say, well, what's giving to the university help? Giving to the university, how does it help? It makes that university that much better in people's eyes, because it tells the world that you cared about that place. You see, when all of us here at Cal State, we say, we're going to go on, we're just using it and so on, I don't want to give any. Yeah, but you're losing by that. If you can afford to give something, you should give something, because others are giving something, and it makes people look upon their education as more valuable than yours. I know it's dumb, I know it's stupid, but that's how people think. And it's as the attachment, the asabiya people feel to where they went, that gives it the power. That gives it, why is Yale so powerful? Who are these jerks that go to Yale? Who's George Bush? What do we care about their dumb honor societies? Why are all the Supreme Court justices, everyone else, the CIA, everything else, why are they all from Yale? Why did Clinton go to Yale, and so on and so on? Why did Miss Clinton go to Yale? Asabiya. The place is a pit. It's just a slum. It's nothing. It's just what people think. Oxford, Cambridge, what people think. And it's the asabiya people feel in that environment that make it important. So that's something. So in our world, it's usually the high school, the college. Sometimes it's the business enterprise in Japan, like the different businesses and so on. Where your group solidarity, where your loyalties are, where your feeling of kinship is, where your feeling of fellow feeling is. Talk more next time, and we'll move on from there. Thanks for putting up with me. We'll get somewhere, don't worry. I just want to get through this and on to the next stage. Tell you who the prophet is.